Hi, I'm Wendy from shinyhappyworld.com, and today I'm going to show you how to embed stuff in the seams of whatever you're making. And I know that sounds a little weird, so I'm going to show you. I've got a teddy bear here that I made, and you'll see that his legs are cut out of the shape of they're part of the body, but his arms are not. See, here's the seam where the front and back are joined, and the arm is like it's growing right out of that seam. Same thing with his ears. Here's the seam for front and back, and his ear is coming right out of that seam. That's what I'm going to show you how to do today. So these are the pieces that we're going to work with. I wanted to show you a few different things. We're going to embed a little rickrack loop, a piece of felt, a little stuffed arm, and a bundle of yarn, and we're going to put it between these two layers of fabric. So remember, when you sew anything, you're going to put the right sides together. So we're going to lay this down with the right side facing up. And I'm going to start pinning these things in place as if I were going to stitch them in. If I want this loop to come out of the top of this square of fabric, I'm going to have to flip it over so that it is on the inside. And I'm going to pin. I'm going to line up the edges of the rickrack with the edge of the fabric. Each of those rickrack edges. I don't want any raw edges to be below the edge of my fabric, so I'm going to let this end hang over a little bit. And I pin this in. So that one's ready to go. I've got this piece of felt, like it's a clump of hair or something. I want it to be coming out of this side of the square, so I flip it up and I put the edges are lined up, and I'm going to pin that in place. For this little arm, it's stuffed. If you ever are putting a stuffed piece in a seam, you want to make sure to not stuff it all the way to the edge. You want this to be able to get nice and flat. See how it's unstuffed there at the end? I want it to be sticking out of the side here, so I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to line all those raw edges up. I actually like to make this piece stick out a little bit over there, just in case anything shifts around during sewing. I'm going to pin that in place. And the same thing with this bunch of hair. I want it to be coming out of the side here, so I'm going to flip it over. And I want this knot actually to be on the inside of my whole stuffed thing when I'm done, so I'm going to have it hanging over the edge a little bit. And I can't really pin yarn in place, so I'm just going to hold that there. That's why that was the last one I put in. I'm going to fold these tails in and fold this piece in so that none of them get caught up in my sewing. And now I'm going to layer this top piece on. I wouldn't normally be putting all these random pieces in there. I just wanted to show you one example with a lot of stuff. And now I'm going to pin this in place. It's just the top layer of my sandwich. All these guys are sandwiched in between the right sides of two layers of fabric. I'm going to turn this edge. Pin the corner first, just to get things flat. And then I'm going to pin right in between those two appendages. And I'm going to sew this corner. And I'm going to leave this side open so I can turn it back right side out and show you the results. Now we're going to take it over to the machine. So I've got it over here at the sewing machine, and I'm basically just going to sew a U. So I get it lined up. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, lower my presser foot so that the edge of the fabric is lining up with the edge of the presser foot. And now I'm going to sew a couple of back stitches, and then I'm going to sew forward. I always stop when it's time to take out my pins. You can stop and start as many times as you need to while you're sewing. Get up to my corner and go down, turn it around. And I'm just going to make sure that that's nice and flat in there. Yep, that feels right. Sometimes if I'm sewing yarn, because yarn is so thin, I backstitch right over it, so I catch that yarn 3 times. Now I'm going to do my last row. Get to the end and back stitch. Now we're ready to turn it right side out. So now I'm going to turn this right side out and show you how everything worked. And here we've got it all. I've got a little stick to poke the corners out. So we have this flap, which could be hair, it could be hand. You could use felt attachments for a lot of different things. You got some hair growing out of the top over here. This could definitely be an arm or a leg. It's nice and stuffed, and after it's in there, you can massage that stuffing down, but if you leave it kind of floppy at the top, it'll help it to bend easier. And then this one, we've got our little loop of rickrack. Everything is very securely attached in there, and they're nice, clean attachments. So that's how you embed stuff in the seams of whatever you're sewing. We're going to use that in the next couple of weeks to attach hair and arms and hands and tentacles and all different kinds of appendages. I'm Wendy from shinyhappyworld.com. See you next time.